Hey all. So I am going to go ahead and do a quick lecture video for chapter 1, section 4 for GC 111. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to talk today about circles. So we're going to cover 3 different topics. We are going to write the standard form of the equation of a circle. We are going to then go ahead and graph a circle and learn how to do that. And then finally, we're going to work with the general form of the equation of a circle. So let's start out with the standard form equation of a circle. So by definition, a circle is a set of points on a specific plane that are a fixed distance from a fixed point. So what does that actually mean? So it basically means that we have got a center R called the radius at some point. Let's call this point HK, just because. And what we can say is we have a distance R. So if we tie a rope around HK and it is a specific length and we go all the way around HK, it is going to draw a circle. So R is considered the radius and HK is going to be the center of the circle. Now, any point that lies on that circle, XY, is going to be a fixed distance R away from that center. So definition number 2, the standard form of the equation of a circle, we're going to say radius R and center at HK because we're going to use XY to meet any point on the circle. So we don't want to use those. Well, what we can say is X minus H squared plus Y minus K squared equals R squared. Okay, so that is going to be our standard form of the equation of a circle. Now, taking that one step further, in essence, it is X squared plus Y squared equals R squared. Okay, so let's say that we put that center at 0, 0, that X minus H is X minus 0, so it's just X squared, plus Y squared equals the R squared. So that is what we consider the standard form of equation as long as that center is at the origin of 0, 0. So one more definition that we're going to have. If we have something called a unit circle. Now, in a unit circle, and the radius is always 1, okay, and the center is always at 0. That's just the definition of a unit circle. So if we go back and use that equation, so the equation we just looked at had a center at 0, 0, so it was X squared plus Y squared. None of that changed. We didn't move the center. What we did change, however, though, is the radius. So in a unit circle, the radius is always equal to 1. 1 squared is always going to be 1. So if someone asks what the standard equation of a circle is for the unit circle, it is actually X squared plus Y squared equals 1. Easy as pie. Okay, so let's do a quick example of how we implement the standard form of the equation of a circle. So write the standard form of the equation of the circle with a radius of 5 and a center of minus 3, 6. So let's start by writing our equation. Okay. So now let's plug in all of those numbers that we have. So the radius is 5, and the point is minus 3, 6. So I put a minus 3 here and a 6 here. Now, there's 2 minuses, so that's a plus. So my equation is X plus 3 squared plus Y minus 6 squared equals 25. That's all there is. Next, let's take a look at how we graph a circle. So we're going to go ahead right into this with an example of how to graph a circle by using the equation that we just created. So our equation is going to be X plus 3 squared, Y minus 2 squared equals 16. So if I put that out into the equation like we had just talked about, my two numbers are going to be the -3, the -2, and the 16. Those are going to be the numbers that we have to pay attention to. So since this is actually a plus, we know it's going to be a -3, and it's already a minus, so it's a +2. That's going to be our first point. Okay, what point is that? That's the center point. Now, the equal sign, this is going to be r squared. So what is the square root of 16? So that's actually 4. Okay, so that's going to be my radius. So now if I come over to my graph over here on the right, I want to find the point -3 and 2, which is going to be right there. And I want to have a radius of 4. So I go 4 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. I go 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4. I go 4 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I attempt to draw something resembling a circle. Just remember, that equation is in that same form that we just looked at, and we can compare that to that standard form of the equation of the circle. Okay, and that's going to give us all the information that we need in order to graph the circle. So in this case, h equals -3. Okay, the k equals a +2, and the radius equals 4 over on the right. So the circle has its center at -3, 2, and a radius of 4 units. So first plot the center and then count off the 4 units on each direction where you actually have lines, and then try to connect those lines and make a circle. So since my drawing is lovely, I am going to go ahead and show you what it looks like actually, like for real. Let's clear my screen. There we go. Much better circle than the one that I drew, but it is the same. So it has the same information, and the center is at the same point, and the radius is there as 4. So next, we're going to find the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. Now, it's a little backwards. So for an x-intercept, we want to know where y is 0, and for a y-intercept, we want to know where x is 0. So there's a few different ways to do this. I'm going to put a little dot on here to try to help. So for here, we want to know where y equals 0. So we want to know this point, let's see, that point, and that point. Okay. Now, that's a little, they're not crossing in anything that's nice and easy to talk about. So let's go ahead and find those intercepts using the equation of the line. So to find the x-intercepts, we are going to set y, the value of y, equal to 0. Okay, so we put that into our equation. So we have x minus 3 squared plus 0 minus 2 squared equals 16. Okay, so here we've got x minus 3 squared plus -2 squared equals 16. So -2 squared is going to be a +4. Okay, and to get rid of it, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. Okay, so here we're going to have x minus 3 squared equals 16 minus 4. So that's going to give us 12. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is get rid of that square. So we're going to take the square root. So it's going to give us x minus 3 equals the square root of 12. Okay. Now the square root of 12 is actually the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, right? We learned that a couple weeks ago, a couple classes ago. So the square root of 4 is actually going to be 2. So now we actually have an equation that says x minus 3 equals 2 square root of 3. Okay, and it's going to be a plus or minus, Because remember, when we pull something out of a square root, it is a plus or minus. Now let's move that 3 over there. Let's be plus 3 this whole time. There we go. So our answers are going to be, let me change the color so that we can see it. So the answer is going to be minus 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 3. Okay. One is going to be the plus, one's going to be the minus. So that's how you find the two intercepts. Okay, remember, square root comes out, it's a plus or minus because I can use a plus 2 to get a 4 under the square root, and I can use a negative 2 to get that as well. Okay, so now let's take a look at what it looks like to find the y-intercept of the circle. If I'm looking at the circle, it's going to be where x equals 0. So we're talking about this point here and that point right there. Okay. So let me turn it back to blue. In order to do that, we want to know where x equals 0. Okay, so let's take our equation again, and we have 0 plus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. Okay, so we have 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. So I've got a 9 here, right? So I'm going to subtract the 9 from both sides. Okay, and I'm going to get an equation that says y minus 2 squared equals 16 minus 9 is going to give us 7. Now, square root both sides. So y minus 2 equals the square root of 7. Now, square root of 7, 7 is a prime number, so we can't actually do anything with that. So we're just going to leave it as square root of 7. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And my final equation is going to be y equals 2. Now, even though we didn't use the square root, we need to recognize that the plus or the minus is still there when it comes to the square root. And that way we could just take the number and the plus or minus sign is already there and not worry about it. So our answer for the 2 points are going to be y equals, so one of them is going to be 2 plus square root of 7, and one of them is going to be 2 minus square root of 7. Okay, those are going to be the 2 points, and that are going to be where x equals 0 and finding the y-intercept. Next, we're going to talk about the general form of the equation of a circle. So we're going to talk We're going to talk about the general form of the equation of a circle. So we're going to go through a few definitions first, and then we'll do an example or two. So another definition is that when your graph is a circle, you're going to have the equation, x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. This equation basically comes from that standard equation that we just did, the x minus h and the y minus b and the equals r squared. And we just solved that equation for 0. Okay, so that is going to be what that is. But you need to recognize what those pieces are going to look like. Okay, so for example, your x's and your y's are going to stay the same. Your c is going to be your radius squared. So let's do it through an example. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to group all of our terms together that are alike. So put the x's together, put the y's together, and put all the whole numbers on the other side. So let's start out with parentheses. Let's start out with the x's, x squared, and then let's see, 4x plus parenthesis y squared minus 6x, and then let's put our 12 over there. So subtract it from both sides and we get 12. Now we're going to complete the square. Now remember, when you complete the square, you divide it by 2 and then square it. So 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2 squared is 4. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. 3 squared is 9. Okay, and whatever we add to one side, we have to add to the other. So x squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, we need to add 4 here. Plus y squared minus 6x plus 9. Equals 12 plus 4 plus 9. Okay, I did the same thing to both sides, so I'm not out of balance here. Okay, so whatever I do to the left, I do to the right, and it keeps everybody in line. Now, if I look at this, it is going to be x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared, okay, equals negative 12 plus 4 plus 9. That's just 1. Okay, because it's minus 12 and plus 13. So we recognize this. We know what this means. This is going to give us the center and the radius. So your radius is going to be square root of 1 or 1. Okay, so it's going to be a little bitty circle. And our center is going to be at minus 2 plus 3. Okay. So if I come over here, I go minus 2 plus 3, and there's my center. And like I said, it's going to be a itty bitty circle on my great big graph. So once again, because I can't draw a circle, that's what it's going to look like. Clear the screen. That's what it's going to look like. Okay. It's a lot bigger because my scale is going to be a lot bigger, but in the end, that's what it is. So I hope you all have understood the concepts that we talked about in this lecture. And if there's any questions, please reach out to one of the professors for clarification. So have a great day.